Oh, Nicole, this feels very rare and precious that we get so much
Oh,
time.
I agree. I agree.
So
Yes.
you are a coach who started off with me, I don't know, back in what, 26?
A little over 5 years ago, I think.
Oh, okay.
Is that right?
I
Six
think
years
it's
ago?
longer. I
Maybe
think the
6 years ago?
pandemic
I'm
squished.
really bad with chronology.
Yeah. I think you were maybe in my second or third cohort, and
Yeah,
my first
that's
cohort
true.
was 2015.
Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Is probably maybe it was the end of 2016 or something like that.
there we go.
Yeah.
So I think it would be really helpful for you to, it's been a long time now. You've been in
It
business
has.
quite a while,
Yeah.
and you've stayed in our community. You left for just a teeny little bit and then came back. And I think it would be really helpful for people who are just starting out, wondering if they want to start their own businesses, to see through your experience what one version of that journey could look like.
Yep. Yeah. So just tell my story from the beginning.
Yeah, tell your story from the beginning, I think.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't working at all when I started the training. And it was just maybe a number of months since being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis that I started. And I was
Only a
still,
couple months.
it was, maybe it was 6 months, something like that.
Didn't know
6 months, less than a year. It's definitely less than a year. Like I said, I'm bad with chronology, so I don't know how long it's been, but less than a year. And I was still really recovering. Like I was still struggling with, and I mean, I'm still dealing with it, but it was in the more intensive phase of recovering from a big initial, they call it relapse, even when it's the first one. So, but my husband had needed to quit his job, and then we would have no income. And I had previously been working as a massage therapist and a counselor. And so I had this background of working with people, but I knew my body couldn't handle the massage therapy. And I didn't actually feel like psychologically I wanted to take on like really intensive psychotherapeutic work anymore either. Um, and so somebody had recommended, somebody thought that I would be potentially, that I might like this. And even though I didn't have that much of an education background, I knew that I would really like the coaching side of thing. I would just like being a coach. So I don't know. I think I saw a couple of videos of yours and I was just like, something's clicking. I like Gretchen. I'm just going to do this thing. And I thought, you know what? It's not actually that big of an investment if it's, going toward a career. And if I take 2 years to pay off this training, then it will be an interesting experience. And then, I can quit if I'm decided that it's not for me. That's sort of the criteria I set for myself. I'll give myself a couple of years to try to like really throw myself into this. And so I jumped in and did the Art Inspiring Your Students and Launching Your Biz, and had a great time and loved it, and realized I liked the education side of it too, even though that wasn't my background. But definitely felt like what I really was interested in was supporting students that don't feel like they're supported enough, that aren't acknowledged enough for who they are and all the different ways that they are, and how to help them to feel like really good about themselves and navigate this world that's not really well designed for them. And that really became a passion. Like I just really loved that work. And then the other thing that I fell in love with was helping families go back to being families instead of parents being the managers of their kids. And I've seen like really amazing transformations in families because of that. Just having me be able to take on some of that and also help show them another way of doing it, being more like a consultant, like the self-driven child book would say, rather than the manager of their kids. So anyway, I feel like I might be skipped over some things, but.
Well, I was thinking that because so let's actually say, because I love it was so long ago that skipped over
the middle steps.
Yeah, but what I remember was the intense pressure you felt. Like it was a leap of, insert swear word here, faith.
Yeah.
For you to be so physically compromised as you were, number one.
Yeah.
And to take on the financial burden
of
the family.
Yep.
to allow your husband to have the space that he needed,
He
and to
needed,
do that
yeah.
all at once in a time
It was
bound
crazy. Yeah.
way. I mean,
Yeah.
what the courage you had, I just remember being astounded by that,
Mm,
and also scared for you, the pressure
yeah.
that
Yeah.
was there, and scared
Totally.
for me too, because I was like, I hope
I know, right?
my
There's
son
a
is
little bit of
good, but
responsibility there. Yeah. And I didn't really get to say this, but before I even finished the training, I had my first two clients, and they came from just that initial like email blast to everybody that I know announcing what I'm doing. And so two people in my community reached out saying, "Oh my gosh, I was just thinking I need something like this." And so before I was even done, and certainly before a year was out, I had more than paid for the program, within that first semester. So that part, it really, that I was really shocked by. And the other thing I remember, because I do remember that kind of pressure, and I was so driven, and it was not the way that I would recommend going about it. I'll say that. Like, it was what I had to do. And I also, had insomnia because of it. And, there was like a lot of things going on and going through that many transitions all at once. It was really intense. But it was also like one of the best things that came out of that time period. And I still feel that way. Like, I feel so grateful, these years later, that I get to do this work. And I've never lasted in any work that I've taken on more than 2 years.
that's
Never.
interesting.
Yeah, 2 years is when I max out. I get tired of it and I move on.
Wow, I bet a lot of
Yeah.
people watching would identify with that. It's true for me too, actually, although my number was 3 until I landed in this work.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's so many things about it that suited me then and suit me now. And it continues to be interesting, and it continues to be a path that can support me, as much as I give to it, or maybe more so. And so it keeps working. And because it's my own business, I get to adjust it and change it how I want to make sure that it continues to suit me.
Yeah, and so what does that mean? Can you be specific to help people imagine?
Mhm.
Like, I'm sure for every
Yeah.
person, supporting yourself is
Right.
different,
Right.
but whatever you're willing to share about the way,
Yeah.
is it just
Right.
financial, or are there other ways?
There's so many ways. I mean, as somebody with a chronic illness, and then I didn't share this part of the story yet, but after a year after I was diagnosed with MS, or maybe it was 2 years, like I said, I don't do time very well. My son was diagnosed with autism and went through this huge, our whole family went through kind of a big trauma around it. He was going through a lot of mental health, like significant mental health challenges. We had to pull him out of school. He didn't go to school for 2 years because of it. It was a huge, huge, huge deal in our world. So because I have this very unpredictable chronic illness, like I can be totally fine right now, one day, or right now I feel totally fine. And 15 minutes later, I could feel like really nauseated and have to go lay down. So it's I don't even know. I don't think I would be applying for disability if I had to have a normal job. I just couldn't do a normal job. There's just no way. So both of those things going on, for, my son is thankfully doing a lot better right now, but it still takes a lot of attention. I can design my schedule, for example, how I want to. I have a mix of college students and high school students, and they're on the East Coast and they're West Coast. And so I can kind of stagger them the way I want to. And for me, what works, like I know for some people, it works better to like pack them all into a few days. It works better for me to spread them out throughout the week. Even on the weekends, I don't even care, as long as I only have like a couple hours of students a day. And I know now that I can manage that. And if I get sick and I have to postpone, I'm not going to have like a 10-hour day, So that's one way, that the flexibility. And every semester I reevaluate and go like, okay, how do I want to structure my time to really serve me? And I really get to prioritize my self-care in a way that I couldn't in previous jobs, and in a way that I really need, So that's one way. Financially, it feels like like the amount of time that I feel like I'm giving a lot when I'm in my sessions, and because of my background in mental health, I feel like I'm really supporting these kids and these families, and I get to really concentrate my energy in that time that I'm with them. And then I have a lot of downtime. And so the money that I'm earning, I'm working essentially like I'm earning like a part-time kind of salary and working probably less than part-time, less than 20 hours a week. And so if I had a normal like salary job or something like that, I don't think I'd be able to make the same income with the amount of time that I'm spending working that I can do this way.
Right.
And so financially, it really serves me. And then, yeah, the flexibility. And then the way that it also nourishes me is just my interactions. Like my time, like 90% of my time is with the people that I'm serving. It's not, I have like hardly any overhead expenses. My admin tasks, I mean, I've kind of gotten it, I'm like kind of lazy when it comes to admin. So I like try to make things as like easy and simple as possible and lazy as possible. And so the time that I'm working is quality time where I'm like interacting in really meaningful ways with people. And so it's nourishing. It doesn't mean it's not challenging. Like sometimes it's challenging and sometimes I get a situation that's difficult for me to figure out. But even that, like I learn a lot from it. I grow from it, and sometimes they're interesting puzzles for me to solve. So I never feel like my days are spent in a way that isn't meaningful.
And I know exactly what you're talking about because for me, I know I present as a bubbly, happy person. I'm a pretty grumpy person too. And I wake up grumpy and a little anxious a lot of the time. And I feel better when I land in that client session or these days in my calls with you all. It's the highlight of my day. I'm of service. I'm in my joy. I'm in my competence. I'm focused.
Yes.
Focused.
Yeah. I also struggle with anxiety, and it is a way where I can kind of channel, all of my strengths when I show up. And it feels great to do that because, And I also even notice sometimes when my symptoms are present, my MS symptoms are present, but they're mild enough, which for me is like brain fog, headaches, nausea, fatigue. If they're mild enough, they're like gone when I'm in the session because there's another part of me that just takes over and shows up. And it's so nice to not just like wallow in feeling bad all day, but have something that I have to show up for, and then it like calls out the best of me to be there.
Although darn that moment you have to click the little red end button and then go back to
I go back to it. Yeah. Sometimes it lasts for a while. Like I'm a little like higher afterward, Yeah. And there's sometimes I cancel. There's sometimes when I feel so bad I cancel sessions, And the fact that I can do that and there's some flexibility there is also something that serves me. Families understand, students definitely understand, And then, and we talk a lot about that. I also prioritize that in my work is talking about, I talk a lot about ableism because it shows up with neurodiversity, it shows up with, chronic illness. And how we what are we doing as a culture to support each other and ourselves to be who we need to be and to take care of ourselves, and how do we have flexibility and also commitment and that kind of stuff.
And how do we not separate ourselves from each other because we have a story that have all these quote unquote deficits, but you can absolutely serve your families so well. And there may be more not cancellations, but shifting of session times in your client, caseload versus somebody else's, but if the expectation is set and if it's from a place of love and care, I have or had migraines. It would often get in the way of my client sessions. And I just really appreciated how my families and we just cared about each other and we supported each other. So I'm listening to our conversation with an ear of somebody who's maybe watching this video. And so, hi, if you're that and they're thinking about starting their business as an academic coach. Maybe they're working full or part-time as a teacher or something else, or maybe they've, like you, are ready to just try to hit the ground running. but I'm imagining that they heard you say that you work the part-time that you work.
Yeah.
And they're just like, what? Like, that cannot be, especially related to marketing. Like, so I'm curious because I think they're curious. Where the
Mhm.
heck are your clients coming from? And how
Yeah.
has the intensity of your time spent marketing, how has that changed from the very beginning to?
Yeah, it's changed a lot. Yeah. In the beginning, when I did feel that kind of pressure and I was so determined to make this work, I did do a lot of outreach. I made some good referral partners early on. I reached out to, like, there was an ADHD treatment clinic that I reached out to and actually gave a presentation while I was still in the training. I had no idea what I was doing or talking about.
I remember we supported you in a community
Yeah.
call, and I think you and I had our own little email exchange, and you were just
Yeah.
like, I'm so not an expert, but I'm just gonna go in there and
Just
like
gonna
say
do
the
it.
things you've said, Gretchen. And
And it went just fine.
uh-huh.
I've taken to heart so many times, Gretchen, your emphasis on taking imperfect action and iterating. 'Cause, you know, I just like hear your voice all the time. Like, it's so great, all these years.
Mhm.
So yeah, and then I reached out to a couple, what do you call it, neuropsychs, and a couple of school psychologists. And
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt you though,
yeah,
because your memory, because you're not great at numbers or
yeah,
time or whatever, is not quite serving you unless I have a wrong memory.
okay.
I recall you sent a minimum of 60 emails.
Oh, I did. Yeah, these are people that I actually had meetings with, but I did
Got
probably
it.
reach out to a lot. Yeah, you're probably right. I think I reached out to a lot of people.
Because
Yeah.
I mention you at least once a year in the Rock training calls to say that, you know, it can be a numbers game. I mean, there are
Yeah,
other ways
yeah.
to work on
I
your.
did a lot of research. I focused locally, and I set up like a free month on LinkedIn and reached out that way. I had a spreadsheet where I was tracking all the people that I was reaching out to and if I heard back from them and if there was a conversation or a meeting. But yeah, I'm only recalling the people that that continue to be referral partners.
But that, even in and of itself, it's helpful. So I just want people to
Yeah, that
hear.
is helpful. I forgot that.
Like,
You're right.
yeah, 60 to 100 emails, whatever the number
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
And that landed, it sounds like you ended up with about 60
Yeah, yeah.
referral partners, but
Mhm.
you haven't told the rest of your story yet. But I will
Right.
just say that in my experience, that is really all a person needs is about 6 solid
Yeah,
relationships to fill a private practice because you only have
yeah.
so much room in your.
That's right. Yeah, and I have students that stick with me for more than a semester. I have students that I've had. Like the longest student I've had is for 4 years, and that happens too. So there's only so many spots that even open every semester.
Yeah.
So yeah, those referral partners, it's not like I hear from them every semester, but I continue to hear, get referrals from them. And then I get a lot of referrals from families. So once you get established and you had some successes, those families, of course, are going to talk to their friends, and then you're going to hear from their friends. It's just how it's going to happen. And I do get referrals through your website. Yeah, but it's so many now, and especially with the pandemic. And this is what I really want everybody to hear, that this is like such a good time to get into this industry, because I think I probably turned away at least 2 times as many people as I took on in the last 3 semesters. Like, just, I mean, I almost felt like burdened by having to talk to so many people and
Yeah.
tell them no,
Yeah.
and help place them, with somebody else, because it was so many.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and that's why I think you can tell me if this is true, but that's why it's nice to be connected to our community.
It's,
Yeah. Because then I mean, all of us just want to serve. That's why we're in this work.
Yeah.
And so many of us have a little codependence too, and just
Yeah.
want to help people and and are willing to bend over backwards to help people. But at the very least, one of the skills I think we're all practicing is how to recognize our boundaries,
Yeah.
focus on our self-care, not listen to the scarcity voices,
Yeah.
and practice generosity by passing along clients to
Yeah.
each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I still, even though I don't participate as much as I would like to, I so appreciate being part of the community, partly because otherwise it's just like me on my own, which I mostly like, but I still miss that like level of collaboration, which I have, even if it's just a matter of like people emailing ideas back and forth, I love, and then meeting occasionally and getting to feel like I'm part of it. And also with the referrals, even though I don't need them anymore, now it just gives me the chance to decide who my ideal client is, who's the right fit for me, and just take those on, because I took on everybody in the beginning and they weren't all great fits. Just partly this is like, that's experience that you need to have in the beginning to figure out who you are as a coach.
Yeah, it's one reason why I go against the common marketing advice to nail down your niche.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like I think most coaches have to play 2 to 3 years with saying yes to a number of kinds of clients before you truly know who's a great fit for you. And then you can start just saying yes to those. But I do think it takes time.
Yeah. And I will also say that somewhere around 3 or 4 years, even, I don't know. I think it was like at the beginning of the pandemic. So you could probably tell me better than I could say how many years that was. I think I reached this like level of confidence. I really felt like it was like a switch flipped. And I was like suddenly a lot more confident. I had really good boundaries. I had really clear conversations with families about expectations and what was going to be the right fit and all that. I hit my stride, and it's nice to think of that too, because it's just nice to know when you're getting started that it does take time to kind of like find yourself in that role. And it could be really different for everybody. It could be that because I didn't have much of an education background, that it took me a little longer to feel confident in some areas,
I think that's about the right amount of time. I remember when I landed in the Bay Area for the first time, a mentor of mine said that it takes 3 years to create a home in a new location. And even if we'd want it to go faster, about 8 years is when you land.
Yeah.
This is home. I know my people. I've got my friends. I've got my whatever.
Yeah.
And I think the same is true for business. To have your business feel like home to you takes about 3 years. And it's why I've designed the program the way I have, where the first year people pay for the fuller, the more expensive Rock Your Biz, because that's where most of my time and most of people's insecurities are. They need a lot of support in that first year. But then to have the circle of licensed coaches that people can move to. And well, what I thought was after the 3rd year, people would leave the interview.
Except for me.
That people just stick around, which is great. I love it.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah, but I will say at about year 3 or 4 is when people spend less time in the inner circle calls. Like they come from time to time, they reply to the emails and resources, but they're less needy.
Yes.
Like you don't come parched, ready to just drink the water as some of the newer people do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's good to know that too, that there's so much support for whatever level you're at, whatever stage you are in the journey. There's so much support available if you want it.
Yeah. And again, although you haven't taken advantage of it as much, partially because you are from an older generation of people coming through the training, what I'm noticing now is people really do come to, even the licensed circle folks come to and Rock Your coaching calls. And it's kind of, those are like the touchstones. Gretchen is there at those.
Right.
Talk about tools there. And then the circle calls are weekly, and I'm often not at those.
Right.
Drop in and you just sort of, whoever's there supports each other.
Yeah.
But it's been interesting to me to see or to facilitate an increasingly intergenerational space.
So
that there are people at lots of different levels of business.
Which is great. Yeah.
Yeah. So now it sounds like, is it true you don't have to put any effort into marketing? That's not.
I don't put any effort into marketing. It's really zero. Yeah. I don't know if I should be advertising that, but
No, you should. Well, it benefits me for people to hear that,
Yeah.
but it is why the last module of my course, Launch Your Biz, which is the main curriculum of the Rock Your Biz program, the last one is called, I forget the verb, attract your steady stream, maybe.
Yeah,
Attract your
yeah,
steady stream of clients.
yeah.
And that steady stream, like all the other modules, are ones you can work through and become more or less fluent in your first year.
Mhm.
But that steady stream one is the one that creates a little bit more, or needs a little bit more time
Yeah, yeah.
to land. And so when do you think, when did you have your steady stream and you could back off of the marketing effort?
Oh, I don't know if I can answer it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know. I feel like within the first year, my efforts dropped off pretty considerably. Like I pushed really hard in the beginning, you know,
Yeah.
and then I think I didn't take on as many clients in the beginning too. And I relied a lot on referrals from your website in the beginning too. So yeah, I feel like it dropped off kind of quickly, like the
I
effort
think
I was
for
putting in.
you, that is true, but
Yeah.
I also think that's testament to your hard work. How weird is it
Mhm.
that the
Mhm.
most physically compromised person who I've taken through the training program is the one who worked the hardest in the smallest amount of time? I've never seen anyone do as many reach outs as
Oh,
you,
really?
never, which is why I talk about you a
Mm.
lot. And so I think the speed with which you got to your
Yeah, yeah.
dream is partially, I mean, there are lots of things
Yeah.
that might be related to it, including your counseling background, I think makes you
Mhm.
an especially attractive person to
Mhm.
parents, and because you can do so much skilled holding of the
Yeah.
emotional container while you are
Mhm.
supporting with the
Mhm.
tool, the academic toolkit container. So I think there's that, but I think there's just the numbers that you are
Yeah,
willing.
yeah.
You did the research. Here's what I'm
Mhm.
remembering, and then you can correct me. You
Yeah.
did the research. You you didn't just blast people. You sent
No,
thoughtful
personal, yeah,
emails
yes.
to
I do remember
each
that.
individual, and there
Yes.
were 60 to 100. We don't remember how many, but
Yeah.
imagine how much time that took to
Mhm.
write a
Yeah.
thoughtful email. And I
Mhm.
remember you saying you let them know exactly like what inspired you on their website.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anyway,
You have a good memory, Gretchen.
what you get when you come into Gretchen Wagner's Rock Your Biz program is a master tracker. But when more
That's
people start
true.
coming in, I won't be able to track as many details. So
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's true. Writing those personal emails. Yeah, that was a good strategy. And there's nothing like, desperate need to fuel a lot of motivation to work hard. So
I have noticed that. I mean, seriously,
yeah.
it's a hard thing to say out loud, but I'll go ahead and say it out loud anyway. That people who have a partner who supports
Mhm.
them, and or people who are in a part-time or a full-time job,
Mhm.
their trajectory is a lot slower.
Yeah, yeah,
Even if they want it to be faster,
yeah,
the safety net, even
yeah.
if they're not aware of it as a safety net, even if they have a lot of
Right.
anxiety about money,
Yeah,
there is an unconscious safety net
yeah.
that has them less willing
Mhm.
to do the numbers. They might send a total of 20 emails.
Right, right.
The 60 to 100 I've always been so impressed by that.
Yeah, yeah. Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, so you had
Mhm.
a need and you had a family that you had to support and you
Mhm.
didn't have a lot
Mhm.
of time. And now there are
Mhm.
some people who might be in that situation and it wouldn't be successful.
Yeah, it's not guaranteed.
So, so
Mhm.
anyway, right before we hit record,
Yes.
you said that you have your very first creativity coaching client
Yes.
starting up. And so I want to make sure we tell the most recent part of your story.
Yeah, yeah.
During the pandemic, I started noticing your social media looked a lot more colorful.
Yeah. Yes, I got obsessed with painting during the pandemic. It became really this passion that I don't know where, I mean, I've always been a maker, but it really like took off and took me over. And so I've been painting like crazy every day since the pandemic, since like early on in the pandemic. And then quickly was like, oh my gosh, I'm piling up paintings. I want to do something with them. So then I created a website. And then a friend of mine suggested that, like, she's like, I think that what you're doing and the way you're talking about art and creativity, because I talk about everything from sort of a healing perspective. It's just like my orientation is like personal growth and healing and self-discovery. And I weave it all into my sessions too. And somebody suggested, like, you know, people would benefit from this process. And so I just added something to my website that said, I do creativity coaching too, because why not imperfect action, right? Just throw it out there. I don't know what this is, but I do it. And then I had some artwork showing at my friend's yoga studio, and somebody from there reached out and said, I think I need this. And so I started working with her around partly setting up her own, like I'm only one step ahead of her, and I'm helping her to get started on a business with her art, and also helping her to make time for creativity in her life. And it's been really sweet. And I also have had the question, like, is this what I'm transitioning to? And I have no idea, right? I have no idea where it's going to all go. But I will say that that I feel like art is something that's like so close to my heart. It's so personal, and it's so important to me that there's something about working with this age group of, you know, this of kids becoming adults that's so precious. Like, I just feel like it's such a privilege to have access to these kids at this age. And they're not everyone, but many of them are so willing to share what's going on with them, with me. Like I said, it just feels so precious that I don't know if I would really be able to choose to just like totally go the art route and leave this behind, because it feels really important. It feels like really important work. And it's different. It's just different in a really good way. Yeah.
Well, there is a phrase out in the preneur space.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's so many different kinds. There's mommypreneur. I'm using the word edupreneur.
Yes.
And there's also multi-passionate.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people who are attracted to my take on this work tend to be multi-passionate, whether they have the preneur part. Not necessarily, not everyone wants to turn all of their passions into a money-making endeavor, but certainly people who love learning and love learning new things and who are passionate about discovery are part of my world. But it doesn't surprise me that this has happened for you. And what a juicy life to think about having the
It's amazing. With kids.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe it'll move to more half and half.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. We'll see. And I feel so grateful that I'm just curious to see how it all unfolds. And I don't feel pressured to make it one way or the other. I'm not trying to like leave one career behind and like push into a new career at all. I'm just like, you know, just enjoying the ride, really.
What I'm noticing, I think, I'm noticing and learning this just right now as we're talking, is that building up the skills needed to start this kind of business, one-to-one service delivery specifically, is a toolkit in and of itself. And once you have it, then you have more access to different parts of yourself. You've done it, and you can you had a website already, so you layered on a new tab or a new whatever and called it creativity coaching. And I think that's pretty cool. Like, what a gift yourself, not just the academic coaching baby business, but the toolkit to create whatever you need in your life at a time.
I've also had a few academic coaching clients that were older that kind of just morphed into just life coaching in a really natural way, and that was really sweet too. And I also I enjoy the way that those things kind of evolve, and the unique kind of challenges that they might all present, and yeah, just all these opportunities for growth.
I love it. Are you selling any of your art, by the way? Or
I am on my website. I have
Yeah.
a separate website for art that I'm selling on. Yeah. And yeah, it's not like I'm selling a ton, but it's out there.
that's awesome. I'm
And
doing the whole
maybe,
review of my place, and so who knows,
oh,
maybe I shall want to purchase some art.
there you go, NicoleDart.com. So if anybody wants to check it out. There's something else I was going to say. Now I forgot it. It'll come back.
Well, as we sort of move into wrap up mode, I'm curious if you have any tips or advice for people who are thinking about joining our program. And I know it's been a long time. Actually, you learned everything before I had formalized training in as formal a way as it is now. But nonetheless,
Yeah.
do you have any tips for people who are jumping in with all of the excitement and fear that
Yeah.
comes with starting something like this?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that and I'll speak directly to you, viewer out there, that you are in such good hands, that like you won't believe the generosity that comes with this program, that Gretchen gives so much support and really does kind of track, like she's talking about, everything that's going on. And you're really well held by her and by the whole community. It's a very sweet, safe space to grow and to learn. And that it's a field that has it's so rich with opportunity and potential. It's the market is just, we need more coaches. There's just, people are hungry for this work. And so the opportunity is there. And I mean, it just couldn't be a better program to get yourself there if that's what you're looking for. And I don't know if there's much else. It's also like, if there are, you have hand holding every step of the way. So if you're worried about, like, I don't know how to build a website, or I don't know, you know, there are a lot of other people that are also just starting from scratch, and it's not as hard as it might sound to get yourself all set up.
Well, and I think I'll layer into that. I mean, and thank you so much for naming how supportive it is. And I do try really hard to have it feel that way. And it's only supportive as how much you show up to it. So it's possible to purchase in to pay for the year, pay monthly, or however you pay. And then I can only track you if you communicate with me.
Right.
So there are a number of people in the program currently who I forget they're in the program because they don't communicate with me. And the beauty is they feel like they're getting their money's worth, apparently.
Great.
Great. But I can only track
You'll get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah, if you allow me to track you. That is.
Yeah.
And it's one of the joys of mine. I love the training, right? They're not even training calls anymore. The community calls. I see my role now. It used to be I would train people. Now I see my role as the master tracker. You have a question. She has an answer because she had an experience with what your question is. So I connect you. And then we talk there for a while. And then I remember this other person had this issue. And I'm really good at doing that. And it's a fear of mine as the community grows and as I get ready to go on my sabbatical, the school year of 2023, 2024. It's like, how do we replace
that role?
That role. Yeah. And it's an interesting question. I think it can happen because we all are master trackers. We're just such a big group of people. So it'll be interesting to figure out.
For sure.
And then also to your point about we need coaches. I just want to name, we do need coaches, and we need coaches of many different identities.
Yes.
More than we have currently.
Yes.
Like it's still a lot of cisgendered white women going into the program. They are welcome. They see me as a home, I get, because I am that way. And we need more cisgendered men. We happen to be recording this video the day after the Uvalde shooting. And so I've been just thinking a lot. There have been so many shootings
Yeah.
Who are the people, the perpetrators?
We need mentors. Yeah.
These young men need
Yeah.
mentors who have their life experience to connect with them in ways that women educators just can't.
Mm-hmm.
Means we specifically need more white male coaches.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are many of the young men perpetrating
Right.
harms.
Right.
And then we also need other races, and then other gender expressions. I have so many increasing numbers.
Yes.
I don't know if you're seeing this.
Yes.
Students with gender deals.
Yep.
And we can serve them fine. I'm sure you're doing a
Yeah.
beautiful job with them, as I was. And my heart aches for them because I know how much more they could be.
Yeah.
If they were working with somebody who shared an intimate understanding of their own gender identity and journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I guess you mentioned ableism. So that is something you provide as somebody who, like, I don't know that to my work.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And this is different than what you're saying, but it's my hope, and I'll just say it because we're recording, so maybe it'll get out there in the universe better, that, I was just reading an article about the kind of achievement gap that's being created by the pandemic, and just that, that our BIPOC community is really suffering right now with the way that the pandemic has affected how their education is supporting them. And then it's the vast majority of the families that reach out to me are also, well-to-do or middle-class white families. And I would love to see this work get out to the people that need it even more desperately than those communities do.
Well, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because that is something that we are working on inside the club, although I haven't written the actual document yet. But my vision is to have created a document that supports coaches in thinking through creative business models that allow people who can't traditionally afford coaching to have coaching. And so that's a class-based thing. It's also an intersectional thing with people with multiple identities. There are plenty of BIPOC folks who can and do this work, and there are plenty who can't and who are being very affected by the pandemic. So
which makes this work an even bigger mission. So,
and there is a layer of work that I'm noticing I am doing when I have an opportunity to work one-on-one with folks in Rock Your Biz. Actually, it's been happening a lot after I stop the button for these interviews and we keep on talking for a half hour, 45 minutes. There's a lot of conversation about our internalized classism, racism, ableism, all of these things. Like, people we're scared to talk about it in community, though. I'm increasingly trying to use our space to be a place where we can be bringing up these things, but people are really struggling one-on-one with their biases. And not just the white folks. I mean, it's very interesting to be a white person supporting some of the folks of color, noticing some of their own internalized limitations related to race and class as they build their business. So it's a rich ground, and I am looking in the future to partner with other non-cis white folks and also help support some of these questions.
So important if we're going to be in this mentoring role, that we know our own. I have my own ableist biases too. It shows up all the time, and it's so obvious because I see how it's like me against me, I can see it.
Right. And why wouldn't we have those, since we live in a culture that is,
we're swimming in it. Swimming in all of it. Well, I appreciate you doing that work and look forward to it becoming more like integrated into the whole program, and us learning about ourselves more, becoming even just more aware mentors.
That's the intention. I was just
Yeah.
talking in one of these other videos to someone, and afterwards, again, when we hit recording, and we talked about how we need an identity toolbox
Yeah.
to better understand our students and their identities. But you can't be an anti-boring approach coach if you're not willing to use the tools on yourself first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, one more quick thing to talk about.
Okay.
So I'm so curious. So you have introduced your brother to the world
Yes.
of academic coaching. He's just gotten his first client. That's very exciting. Speaking of needing more male coaches, there's a video interview with him.
Yeah.
Will be coming out at some time around now. But I'm just curious, what is it like having a family member you can talk
Oh,
to?
it's so great. It's so great. Well, and also, my brother's living with us right now. I don't know if he mentioned that, but he was in Asia for the whole pandemic. So he's like suddenly here. And then we're like doing the same work. So I think the rest of our family is totally sick of us because we're always talking shop together, always. And it's so fun. It's so fun to have that in common. It's so fun to see how much he's grown and how much he's bringing to it. Because I've wanted him to do this for a long time, and you and I have talked about it, or I've at least emailed you about it. And to see how ready he is for it is so cool. It's so cool. He's already been working with students in other capacities already, and but his own journey with having ADHD, I think, makes him like just so determined to like really learn this stuff and know how to communicate it and support these kids. So it's just really a joy. I mean, it seems so funny that we're both doing the same thing, and we grew up as such totally different people. We're coming at it and like, oh my gosh, look, we're sort of the same now.
Does he show off all his new note-taking techniques to you?
He hasn't shown them off to me. He just tells me that he's very disciplined about like doing it and doing it again, and like he's like taking it all very seriously.
Well, he shows them off when he posts them inside the Art of Inspiring Students course, and it's pretty cool what he's figured out. So I would say
that's awesome. He probably didn't take a single note in his entire high school career.
Well, boy, is he using OneNote now.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm so excited for him because he's going to be able to relate so well to these students that he's serving, and I think it's going to mean so much to them that he's been in their shoes. So we all come with different things that we can different ways that we can connect to students.
Yes.
And so I'm excited for him to be able to do that, and definitely excited for more male coaches.
Yes, to everyone.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for inspiring him to.
Yeah.
It's been a real treat getting to know him.
Awesome.
Okay, well.
Speaking of treats, it's been so nice to get to hang out with you for a half hour.
I'm just gonna do this every time somebody graduates from Rock Your Biz into the inner circle. I'm gonna
just record them.
Do a public conversation with them because it's so nice to have one-on-one time, and I think it is so helpful for those of you, if you're watching this video and there was an aspect of Nicole's story that feels very helpful for you to think through. It'd be great for you to comment below in YouTube or send me an email, Gretchen@GretchenWagner.com. And Nicole, where should they find you? You've mentioned your art website.
Yeah, I know, right?
Coaching website.
My coaching website is NicoleDCoaching.com. So it's Nicole D Coaching or Nicole D Art. They're very similar. I didn't get very creative with the names.
Love it. And also Nicole's on the Trained Coaches page of my website. So you can find her there.
Yeah, please reach out if you have any questions. Happy to answer anything.
Oh, that's so kind of you. All right. Well, have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, Gretchen.